Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video I'm going to be going over my favourite PvE and PvP subclass builds for the Hunter class. So first off, we'll start with the PvE build, and I'm going to be using the Night Stalker subclass. I'm not going to go over the grenades just yet because they'll go hand in hand with another perk later on. So we'll start off with the jumps, and I like to use triple jump, and the reason for this is because it allows you to have precision jumping. So say I want to go directly ahead, but then I have to switch my direction to the left. Halfway through I can jump, turn left and jump again. And if I was trying to do this same concept with, say, higher jump, so I'm going to be going straight and then left, it's much more difficult to pull off. Okay, so next up is the second perk attached to the super, Shadow Shot. And I'm going to be using Black Hole. The reason for this is because 90% of the time when I'm using Shadow Shot in PvE, it's going to be for tethering bosses. So I want last significantly longer, because this means that all of my teammates, for example, when tethering Golgoroth, can get more damage in and get that extra damage to get more DPS to reduce the length of the fight. So that's very useful. Next up, and this is the reason why I didn't talk about grenades at the beginning, is the smoke. So I'm using the envenomed perk because it means that when enemies are trapped inside of the smoke, it deals more damage. Combined with vortex grenade, enemies are continually damaged within the vortex. So let's test this out now. And if you want to use these effectively, you have to, you can quickly get this mixed up with using your super. You want to press either one of RB or LB first, and then press the other almost immediately, but not at the same time, because you'll activate your super. Okay, so you see there, within this radius of the vortex, the enemies get trapped within inside, and they get double damaged because of the smoke bomb and the vortex grenade. So that's why I like that. But I also like Vanish in Smoke. The reason for this is because there are some fights in the game where making you and your allies invisible is very important. So for example, during the Oryx fight, when you're about to leave the aura to go detonate your bombs, you might want to throw a smoke down to make everybody going to detonate bombs invisible so they don't get killed by ads if any are alive. So either one of these is good depending on the situation. We'll move on to Light of the Pack. So Light of the Pack, killing tethered targets creates orbs of light for your allies. This is really useful in particular for the Oryx fight. This is because everybody needs their supers for different reasons during the Oryx fight, because everyone has a different role. And at the beginning there's maybe 10 plus Thrall that spawn, and if you tether them and then your teammates kill them, it produces a lot of orbs. So if anybody is going to be using their super straight away, such as a Titan using their bubble, or someone simply doesn't have their super, it'll just get it back up for them straight away. Okay, and this tree is quite difficult. I mean, Shade Step's useful and Keen Scout's useful. Personally, Keen Scout and Shade Step to me seem much more useful for PvP. I don't see any relevance of Predator. I can't see why you'd ever want to use that. But I do use Keen Scout in PvE simply for the sprint and sneak faster, and also just because, you know, marking people you damage can be useful in PvE but not that relevant. And also lastly, I like to run a max armor build on my Hunter for PvE. This is because personally I feel the Hunter's quite weak in comparison to a Warlock and a Titan in terms of the amount of armor they can have. The only downside of this is to have this build, you also have low recovery. So you've got to bear this in mind, and you can switch it up to your preferences. But that wraps it up for PvE, so now we'll move on to... Okay, so now we'll look at my favourite PvP subclass build for the Hunter. And I'm actually going to be using the same subclass, the Night Stalker. This has been my favourite PvP subclass for the Hunter for a while now. So to start off with, the jump is the same as PvE for the same reasons, but the perk for Shadow Shot is different. I'm going to be using Quiver. The reason for this is because it gives you 3 shadow shots within a certain time frame, and the difference between this and Black Hole is that Quiver has a much lower range and doesn't last as long. However, I don't really think this is necessary in PvP because you're pretty much going to be having most of your shadow shots on target, and also you're not going to be firing them in between two huge groups of people where you have a risk of not hitting one of them with a tether. And also the fact that you get 3 means that you can hit multiple targets. So 1, 2, 3. Oh, that missed. But it still tethers him from a distance, as you can see, and then you can get the kill. Okay. So again, Envenomed, Vortex Grenade, they work hand in hand. You simply throw them at the same target at the same time, the enemy will get trapped inside. However, a different build on this version of the subclass is I'm going to be using Lockdown. This means grenade and smoke effects last twice as long, allowing strong territory control. This just means that when you're throwing your grenades in PvP, if a Guardian gets trapped in them, they can sometimes easily just walk out of it, but with this perk it'll be much harder for them to do that, and you'll be more likely to get the kill, so I value that over Light of the Pack. Killing tethered targets creates orbs of light for your allies. And right, again, so these 2 perks at the end, because we're not going to use that because it's completely irrelevant, these 2 perks really depend on the gear you have. I'm currently using Keen Scout, because I prefer the mark targets who damage. I really like that, but this is because I'm using the Graviton Forfeit, which grants Shade Step. That's the exotic perk on the helmet. This means that Shade Step here, even though I haven't selected it, is active. So as you can see, I haven't got Shade Step activated, but I've got the helmet on. So you can see I'm Shade Stepping. Now, if this wasn't the case, and say I had a Crest of Alpha Lupion, I would still be using Keen Scout. The reason for this is just because I haven't noticed many occasions where Shade Step is that useful. Don't get me wrong, there are lots of occasions where, say you're being sniped along the corridor, you can quickly Shade Step away, but the amount of times I've used Shade Step and been killed anyway whilst in the process of Shade Stepping, I don't value it as much as Keen Scout. Because, for example, say an enemy popped out or behind a lorry like this, you damage them, but you don't know where they've gone. With Keen Scout, a reticle appears showing you exactly where they've gone, and they could then move around the corner and you can start shooting them before they even get there. So I value it a lot. Anyway guys, thanks for watching, and if you liked the video, comment below, and if you have any video ideas, comment below as well.